Once upon a time in a bustling city where dreams were as common as the morning fog, there lived a young man named Thomas who had forgotten how to believe in himself. Every morning, he would wake to the harsh buzz of his alarm clock, drag himself from bed, and stare at his reflection in the mirror with eyes that had lost their spark. The face looking back at him was that of someone who had given up before the day had even begun. Thomas worked at a small accounting firm downtown, spending his days hunched over endless spreadsheets and calculations that seemed to blur together into one meaningless stream of numbers. His colleagues barely acknowledged him, his boss treated him like furniture, and his paycheck was just enough to keep him trapped in a cycle of survival rather than living. Day after day, week after week, month after month, Thomas felt himself disappearing into the gray fabric of ordinary existence. But Thomas hadn't always been this way. Once he had been a dreamer. Once he had painted landscapes that captured the very essence of hope. Once he had written poetry that made people weep with recognition of their own buried emotions. Once he had believed that his life would matter, that he would leave a mark on this world that would outlive his mortal existence. That was before the rejection started piling up like autumn leaves. Gallery after gallery turned down his artwork. Publisher after publisher returned his manuscripts with form letters that might as well have been written in invisible ink for all the personal attention they contained. Friends and family, well-meaning though they were, began suggesting he be practical and think about his future and get a real job. Slowly, like a fire being smothered by wet sand, his passion began to die. Now at 28 years old, Thomas felt ancient. He felt as though he had lived 1,000 lifetimes of disappointment, each one teaching him the same bitter lesson, that dreams were for other people, for the lucky ones, for those born with advantages he would never possess. On this particular Tuesday morning, as rain streaked down his apartment window like tears on a sorrowful face, Thomas made a decision that felt both inevitable and terrifying. He would quit. Not just his job, though that too, but everything. He would stop trying, stop hoping, stop pretending that tomorrow might be different from today. He would surrender to the comfortable numbness of giving up. As he walked to work through the rain-soaked streets, Thomas noticed something he had never seen before. Sitting on a bench at the bus stop was an elderly woman, perhaps 70 years old, with silver hair that caught the dim light like spun moonbeams. She was sketching in a worn notebook, her weathered hands moving with surprising grace and confidence across the page. Her eyes, bright and alert, darted between her drawing and the world around her, as if she were capturing not just images, but the very soul of the morning. Something about her intense focus, her obvious passion for what she was doing, made Thomas stop. He found himself walking closer, drawn by curiosity he thought had died long ago. "Excuse me," he said, his voice rusty from disuse in meaningful conversation. "Are you an artist?" The woman looked up, and Thomas was struck by the warmth in her eyes, the kind of warmth that comes from a life lived fully, despite its inevitable sorrows. "I'm learning to be one," she replied with a smile that transformed her entire face. "I started taking art classes 6 months ago, right after my husband passed away. For 60 years, I told myself I wasn't creative, that art was for other people. Isn't that funny? I spent most of my life believing a lie I told myself." Thomas felt something stir in his chest, a sensation he had almost forgotten existed. "You just started? But your drawing, it's beautiful." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Oh, my dear boy, this is terrible compared to what I want to create. But that's not the point, is it? The point is that I'm finally doing what I love, even if I'm not very good at it yet. Even if I never become great at it, the joy isn't in the destination, it's in the journey itself." Thomas stared at her sketch. It was indeed imperfect, the proportions slightly off, the shading inconsistent. But there was something else there, something that made his heart ache with recognition. There was love in every line, passion in every stroke, hope in every shadow. "I used to paint," Thomas heard himself saying. "I used to write. I thought I would be someone, but nobody wanted what I created. The woman studied his face with the same intensity she had been applying to her artwork. "And what made you think that other people's opinions determine the value of your soul's expression?" The question hit Thomas like a physical blow. He had no answer because he had never really considered it from that perspective. Somewhere along the way, he had given strangers the power to define his worth, to decide whether his dreams were valid, to determine whether his voice mattered. "My name is Eleanor," the woman continued, "and I spent 60 years waiting for permission to be myself. Permission from my parents, from my husband, from society, from anyone who seemed more qualified than me to decide what I should do with my life. And you know what I discovered? Nobody is more qualified than you to live your own life." Thomas felt tears threatening, a dam of suppressed emotion beginning to crack. "But I failed so many times. I'm not good enough." "Good enough for what?" Eleanor asked gently. "Good enough for whom? Are you creating for the critics, or are you creating because something inside you needs to be born into this world? Are you writing for the publishers, or are you writing because you have stories that demand to be told?" As she spoke, Thomas began to remember. He remembered the feeling of brush on canvas, the way colors could speak emotions that words could never capture. He remembered the satisfaction of finding exactly the right word, the perfect phrase that made a sentence sing. He remembered why he had started creating in the first place, and it had nothing to do with fame or money or recognition. "I used to paint because I couldn't not paint," he whispered. "I used to write because the stories were bursting out of me." Eleanor nodded as if he had just spoken a profound truth. "And what changed? Did the stories stop coming? Did the need to create disappear? Or did you just stop listening to it?" Thomas closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he listened. Really listened. And there it was, still alive beneath the layers of disappointment and fear, the quiet but persistent voice of his creativity. It had never left. He had simply learned to ignore it. "I'm scared," he admitted. "What if I try again and fail again?" "Oh, my dear," Eleanor said, packing up her sketching supplies as her bus approached. "What if you don't try and spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been? What if you die with your music still inside you? Isn't that a far more frightening prospect than failure?" As her bus pulled away, Eleanor waved from the window, and Thomas stood there in the rain, feeling as though he had just awakened from a long, dreamless sleep. The world around him looked different somehow, brighter despite the gray sky, more alive despite the dreary weather. He turned around and walked home, calling in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. In his apartment, he pulled out canvases that had been gathering dust in his closet, brushes that felt foreign in his hands after so long, paints that had separated and needed stirring back to life. Thomas began to paint, and it was terrible. His hands shook, his technique was rusty, his vision far exceeded his current ability. But as he worked, something magical happened. The joy came flooding back, not the joy of success or recognition, but the pure, simple joy of creation itself. He was terrible, and it didn't matter. He was out of practice, and it didn't matter. He was painting for an audience of one, and that was enough. Hours passed like minutes. When he finally stepped back from his easel, Thomas saw not a masterpiece, but something far more valuable. Proof that his passion was still alive, that his dreams were still possible, that he was still capable of growth and change and hope. Over the following weeks, Thomas began to rebuild his creative life. He painted in the mornings before work, wrote poetry on his lunch breaks, and spent his evenings reading about art techniques and storytelling craft. He joined a local artist group where he met other creators who understood the struggle between practical survival and creative expression. Some of his new work was rejected, just as his old work had been. But now he understood what Eleanor had tried to teach him. The rejection was not a verdict on his worth as a human being or even as an artist. It was simply information, feedback he could use to grow and improve, or sometimes just evidence that his work wasn't the right fit for that particular venue at that particular time. Thomas learned to submit his work not from a place of desperate need for validation, but from a place of generous sharing. He was offering his unique perspective to the world, and whether any individual recipient appreciated that gift was beyond his control and ultimately irrelevant to the value of the offering itself. Months later, Thomas encountered Eleanor again at the same bus stop. This time she was painting with watercolors. Her technique noticeably improved, but still charmingly imperfect. Her face glowed with the same passion and joy he had witnessed that first day. "You look different," she observed, studying his face with her artist's eye for detail. "I feel different," Thomas replied. "I feel alive again." They talked about their respective artistic journeys, sharing the small victories and ongoing challenges that mark the path of anyone brave enough to create. As Eleanor's bus approached, she handed Thomas her latest painting, a simple landscape that captured the beauty in an ordinary city morning. "Remember," she said as she climbed aboard, "you don't need permission to be yourself. You never did." Thomas carried that painting home and hung it above his easel, a daily reminder that creativity is not about perfection or external validation, but about the courage to express what lives within you, regardless of the outcome. Years passed, and while Thomas never became famous, he became something far more valuable. He became himself. His art evolved, his writing matured, and his joy in the creative process never wavered again. He learned that success is not measured by external recognition, but by internal fulfillment. Not by the applause of others, but by the satisfaction of honoring your authentic self. Thomas discovered that the greatest tragedy is not failing at your dreams, but failing to pursue them at all. He learned that motivation is not something you wait for. It's something you create through action, through showing up day after day to do the work that matters to you, regardless of whether you feel inspired. The story of Thomas and Eleanor spread through their artist community, inspiring others who had given up on their dreams to pick up their abandoned passions once more. It became a reminder that it's never too late to begin again, never too late to choose growth over stagnation, never too late to honor the creative spirit that lives within every human soul. Now it's your turn. If this story resonated with you, if you see yourself in Thomas's struggle or Eleanor's wisdom, then you have a choice to make right now, in this very moment. What dream have you abandoned? What passion have you silenced? What creative voice have you allowed the world to convince you doesn't matter? Your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is this. Before you go to sleep tonight, take one small action toward that forgotten dream. Write one paragraph of that story, sketch one simple drawing, practice one song, research one class, send one email, take one photograph. Don't wait for motivation to strike like lightning. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the right circumstances or someone else's permission. The perfect time is now. The right circumstances are whatever circumstances you currently face. The permission you need can only come from you. Share your commitment in the comments below. Tell us what small action you're going to take today to honor your dreams. Let this community of dreamers support and encourage each other, just as Eleanor supported Thomas, just as you can support someone else who needs to remember that their dreams still matter. Your story is waiting to be written. Your art is waiting to be created. Your music is waiting to be played. The only question is, will you answer the call? Remember, you don't need to be great to get started, but you need to get started to become great. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. What will it be?